Hello, friends. Am I audible, Shalin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, friends, yesterday we have covered section 1. Today we'll be discussing section 2. And I'm sure in the time that we have, we'll not be able to cover section 2 completely. But so today our endeavor would be to discuss section 2 in detail. We'll try to cover each and every subclause which is there in section 2 so that we all can run through the provisions of the GST law. Let me share the screen first. Screen is visible. Just give me 1 minute.
Yes, sir. Screen is visible.
Okay. So this was what we have completed yesterday. We have discussed all the tables of section 1 as per this compilation. Now, before moving to section 2, uh, let me just clarify one or two things. I have been receiving on a regular basis the queries that when this book will be shared and when the soft copy of the book, that is ebook, will be shared with all of you. So I had a discussion today with the publisher. Originally, we were expecting that this week end we'll be getting the book will be released, but unfortunately, there is a death of someone due to which there may be 1 or 2 days here and there. So maybe in the next week starting, we'll be getting the book release and it will be reaching to all of you, whosoever has purchased it or booked it online. It will be reaching to all of you. And so far as the ebook is concerned, ebook will be again supplied by some or the other means of security by the publisher itself. So that also will be shared along with the hard copy. Nevertheless, as I've stated that we'll be basically discussing uh, about this entire law with the help of Bare Acts only. So therefore, if we have Bare Act and rules with us, that will be more than sufficient because I believe that we have 2 days left because today is Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday. In 2 days, we'll be able to cover at the most till to section 3. So by that time, you'll be receiving the book. So we have ample time. No need to worry. So starting with section 2 today, which deals with definitions. Uh, Majority of us are aware that most of the laws are having section 2 as definitions. The same is there in GST law also. GST के अंदर भी section 2 जो है वो definitions को cover करता है. There are certain laws wherein section 3 also deals with definition, or there are other sections which deal with definition, but section 2, which is there most of the laws as a definition, we'll be discussing with definitions in GST law in section 2. Subsection 1, it deals with actionable claim. Now, friends, the definition is shall have the same meaning as assigned to it in section 3 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882. So therefore, if we consider this definition, to understand what is actionable claim, we'll have to refer section 3 of the Transfer of Property Act. So for the convenience of all of you, I am reading the definition as provided in section 3 of the Transfer of Property Act. Please be with me and try to understand what and how this law is specified, or how this term is defined in Transfer of Property Act. It says actionable claims means a claim to any debt. See, since this is an endeavor to discuss the GST law line by line, but it is mandatory for us to understand the definition as per Transfer of Property Act. So therefore, I am covering this. But over and above this, means का क्या interpretation होता है, includes का क्या होता है, to the extent of का क्या होता है, with respect to का क्या होता है. If time will permit, I'll be sharing those also at the relevant point in time. If not permitted, then that needs to be looked into from the interpretation books. So it says actionable claims means a claim to any debt other than the debt secured by mortgage of immovable property or by hypothecation or pledge of the movable property or to any other beneficial interest in movable property not in possession, either actual or constructive, of the claimant, which the civil courts recognize as affording grounds for relief, whether such debt or beneficial interest be existent, acquiring, conditional, or contingent. So therefore, if we try to understand this definition, I'll just try to dissect it. It says means a claim. Actionable claim is a claim to any debt other than a debt secured by mortgage of immovable property or by hypothecation or pledge of movable property or to any beneficial interest in movable property not in possession. So therefore, सिंपल सा ये कहना चाहता है कि अनसिक्योर्ड डेट्स जो होते हैं दोज आर एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स. कोई भी मोड से अगर आपका सिक्योर डेट है, चाहे वो इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी की हाइपोथिकेशन से सॉरी मॉर्गेज से है, या फिर आपकी लेट्स से जैसे इंस्टॉलमेंट पे आप कुछ खरीदते हैं तो उसको उसके ऊपर आप लोन लेते हैं या उसको हाइपोथेटिकेट करते हैं, इसी तरीके से कोई प्लेज आप करते हैं, तो वो सारी चीजें चाहे मूवेबल हो या इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज का जो आप करेंगे, दैट बिकम्स अ सिक्योर डेट. एंड सिक्योर डेट को छोड़ के जो भी डेट्स होंगे दैट बिकम्स अ एक्शनेबल क्लेम. दिस इज वन. सो टेक्निकली अगर हम समझें, so it is nothing but the unsecured debts, a claim to unsecured debts, and also a claim to beneficial interest in the movable property, which is not in possession, actual or constructive, whether present or future, conditional or contingent. तो दूसरा इसका रीजन हो गया कि आपका जो बेनिफिशियल इंटरेस्ट अगर किसी प्रॉपर्टी में है, that also is included, meaning thereby if the beneficial interest in the movable property is not in possession of the claimant, आपके पोजीशन में वो नहीं है, जो आप क्लेम कर रहे हैं उसकी पोजीशन में अगर वो इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी का बेनिफिशियल इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, then it will become an actionable claim. But if it is in the possession or enjoyment, it will not be actionable claim, but chosen possession. So therefore, it will not be an actionable claim. और इसके लिए एक सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट है. If any one of you want to note it down, then it can be noted down. That judgment is H. Enraj, ANRAJ versus Government of Tamil Nadu, 1986, 61 STC 165 सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सो वहां पे ये बोला गया कि अगर आपका कोई बेनिफिशियल इंटरेस्ट है किसी ऐसी मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी में विच इज नॉट इन योर पोजेशन, then it will become an actionable claim. But if it is in possession, that will be out of the actionable claim purview. अगर हम actionable claim के अगर हम definitions की बात करते हैं या examples की बात करें, तो for example, right to recover the insurance money, that is an actionable claim. आपका कहीं insurance claim आपने फाइल किया and you have the right to receive that insurance claim money, that becomes your actionable claim. A partner who has the right to sue for an account of a dissolved partnership, अगर आप आपके पास राइट है कि आप दूसरे पार्टनर को सू कर सकते हैं, सो दैट आल्सो बिकम्स एन एक्शनेबल क्लेम. अ राइट टू द क्रेडिट इन द प्रोविडेंट फंड अकाउंट, प्रोविडेंट फंड अकाउंट में क्रेडिट होना, दैट बिकम्स अ राइट व्हिच इज एन एक्शनेबल क्लेम. सो फ्रेंड्स, दीज वर फ्यू एग्जांपल्स जहाँ पे बेनिफिशियल इंटरेस्ट की बात हो रही है या फिर जहाँ पे अनसिक्योर्ड डेट्स की बात हो रही है, वो आपका सेक्शन 3 ऑफ द ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट के हिसाब से एक्शनेबल क्लेम की डेफिनेशन में फॉल करेगा. And GST law is following the definition of section 3 of the Transfer of Property Act. But अगर आप शेड्यूल 3 देखेंगे तो शेड्यूल 3 में पैरा 6 है, जहां पे केवल एक ही वस्तु को एक्शनेबल क्लेम बोला गया है, दैट इज एनी एक्शनेबल क्लेम अदर देन लॉटरी, betting or gambling. So any actionable claim which is pertaining to lottery, betting or gambling, that will be an actionable claim which is covered under GST and which is out of the purview of Schedule 3. But all other actionable claims, जैसे मैंने बोला, right to claim the insurance money, right to have the credit of the provident fund, your account, right to sue the partner, all these actionable claims are out of GST purview. उसके ऊपर कोई भी GST का compliance, GST का taxability arise नहीं होगा, except so Schedule 6 specifically says actionable claims other than lottery, betting or gambling. So any actionable claim pertaining to lottery, betting or gambling is out of Schedule 3, and therefore it will be forming part of the definition or the scope of supply under Section 7, and therefore the tax will be leviable. Now एक important judgment था, जिस जजमेंट में ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्किल लोटो का जजमेंट था, जहाँ पे ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि एक्शनेबल क्लेम स्किल से अगर वो आता है तो दैट विल not be covered into that. I'll not go into all those judgments and all. But important is actionable claims technically is goods as per GST law. It is not going to fall within the purview of service. It is going to be goods, and therefore the rate and the tariff notification, which is 1/2017, will be applicable so far as actionable claims are concerned. And the judgment which I was referring was Skill Lotto Solutions Private Limited versus Union of India, 2020 12 TMI 140. And this is a judgment of 2020 December 2020 by the Honorable Supreme Court. Skill Lotto Solutions Private Limited. You can refer this judgment. This judgment explains beautifully about what is actionable claim under GST and how it is going to be covered, what is the treatment thereof, and accordingly you can get an elaborate idea about the actionable claim. Now let us move to another definition, which is address of delivery, subsection 2 of section 2 of the CGST Act. What is address of delivery as per the law? It says means the address of the recipient of goods or services or both, indicated on the tax invoice issued by a registered person for delivery of such goods or services or both. Meaning thereby, address of delivery does not mean that this is the registered address of the recipient. I'm repeating it. If we read the definition, it says that address of delivery means the address of recipient of goods or services or both, indicated on the tax invoice by a registered person for delivery of such goods or services or both. Meaning thereby, that address may differ. That address may differ from the address of the registered place. So therefore, wherever the word address of delivery is mentioned in the law or the statute or rules, you will have to consider not only the place of the registration of that person or the recipient, but also the place where it can be delivered or which has been mentioned in the invoice. See, ये कब एप्लीकेबल होगा वो आप समझने की थोड़ा सा माइंड अप्लाई करते हैं. जब हम रेसिपिएंट की डेफिनेशन पढ़ेंगे तो रेसिपिएंट का मतलब वही नहीं है जिसको गुड्स और सर्विसेज मिले. रेसिपिएंट का मतलब वो है जो पेमेंट करता है. So the actual recipient who receives the goods or services may be a person different from the person who is receiving the payment, or sorry, who is making the payment. So therefore, a person who is making the payment can be a registered person, but a person who is receiving those goods or services can be a different person who may be unregistered, but his address of delivery may be mentioned on the invoice. So therefore, they have specifically defined address of delivery so as to remove any kind of confusion and create a clear-cut distinction that there can be two addresses. One can be the address of registered person, who may also be considered to be a recipient, and other address, which can be the address of delivery. That is subsection 2. Now moving to subsection 3, address on record. Now it says means the address of the recipient is available in the records of the supplier. जब हम प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई पढ़ेंगे, जब हम टैक्स इनवॉइस पढ़ेंगे, उसकी रूल पढ़ेंगे, रूल 46. सो address which is applicable on record becomes very important, because ऐसा हो सकता है कि आज अविनाश रजिस्टर्ड है, उसका एक एड्रेस है जो अविनाश के सप्लायर ने अपने रिकॉर्ड्स में रजिस्टर किया है. टुमारो इट में हैपन that the address of Avinash gets changed, but my supplier has already recorded my address in his records, so that will become the address on record, because that also can be relevant at various point in time. Say for example, मुझे उन्होंने कोई सप्लाई किया या मेरे इंस्ट्रक्शंस पे कोई सप्लाई किया, उनके रिकॉर्ड में जो पहले एड्रेसेस थे उसी एड्रेस पे उन्होंने सप्लाई दिखाया, बट मैंने बोला था बिल टू शिप टू, सो बिलिंग टू बी डन टू मी and shipping to be done to some other person. In the meanwhile, I have not informed him that the billing address needs to be changed. So whatever address he has on record, that address can be recorded in the invoice, and that will become the address on record. So there is a difference in address of delivery, which we have read in subsection 2, and address on record. What kind of difference is this? जब हम आगे पढ़ेंगे इस law में relevant provisions or rules, तब I'll elaborate on that. Next is adjudicating authority. Now this is very important, क्योंकि हम professionals जब भी डील करेंगे, यही चीज हमें डील करनी है, adjudicating authority को. बट जीएसटी लॉ में आप एक, मैं आपको पहले से थोड़ा शेयर करता हूँ. जीएसटी लॉ में there is a difference in adjudicating authority and proper officer. Both have been defined, but at some of the provisions you will find the term adjudicating authority, and at most of the places you will find proper officer. There is a clear-cut distinction and difference between that, and which have been defined in the law, and we need to understand and digest. I'm repeating, हमें केवल समझना नहीं है, वो डिफरेंसेस को डाइजेस्ट भी करना है कि एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी और प्रॉपर ऑफिसर में क्या डिफरेंस है. बिकॉज कल जब लिटिगेशन होगा, कल जब शोकॉज आएगा, तो whether the show cause has been given by the proper person in the eyes of law or not, that becomes a relevant question. Because अगर आपको ध्यान होगा तो भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का एक जजमेंट था कैनन इंडिया, जो अगेन रिव्यू में है और काफी ज्यादा वो डिस्कशन में है, जहां बोला गया कि डीआरआई हैज नो पावर टू इशू द शो कॉज नोटिस. लड़ाई किस चीज की है? लड़ाई एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी और प्रॉपर ऑफिसर की है. सो जब ये मैं स्पेसिफिकली इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि while reading will run it through, but you need to understand the difference between proper officer and the adjudicating authority, so that you can represent your case at the time of receiving any show cause notice or maybe any litigation in future. So subsection 4 defines adjudicating authority. It says means any authority appointed or authorized, this is very important, to pass any order or decision under this act. I'm repeating again, means any authority appointed or authorized to pass any order or decision under this act, but does not include the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, the Revisional Authority, the Authority for Advance Rulings, the Appellate Authority for Advance Rulings, the National Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling, the Appellate Authority, the Appellate Tribunal, and the authority referred to in subsection 2 of section 171, which is National Anti-Profiteering Authority. So अगर आप सिंपल सा देखें तो ये केवल ये डेफिनेशन देता है कि कोई भी अथॉरिटी जिसको आपने अपॉइंट किया है या ऑथराइज किया है किसी भी ऑर्डर और डिसीजन को पास करने के लिए इस एक्ट में, he is an adjudicating authority. So any person who is empowered to pass any order under this act इज एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी। आप ये ध्यान रखें बस। तो कोई भी ऑर्डर एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी ही पास कर सकता है, उसके अलावा नहीं कोई पास कर सकता। एंड देव एक्सक्लूडेड द बोर्ड, देव एक्सक्लूडेड रिविजनल अथॉरिटी, एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी, अपीलेट अथॉरिटीज, बिकॉज वो सब ऑर्डर पास करते हैं, बट दोज ऑर्डर्स आर नॉट द एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटीज ऑर्डर और नॉट द एडजुडिकेशन ऑर्डर्स। दोज ऑर्डर्स आर इधर बोर्ड पास करेगा तो एक इंस्ट्रक्शन, नोटिफिकेशन, सर्कुलर या ऑर्डर पास करेगा। रिविजनल अथॉरिटीज भी कोई ऑर्डर को रिवाइज करके पास करेंगी। एडवांस रूलिंग्स आपने एप्लीकेशंस किए तो ये सेपरेटली कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड है, इसलिए इसको एक्सक्लूड किया गया है फ्रॉम द डेफिनेशन ऑफ एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी अंडर सबसेक्शन 4 ऑफ सेक्शन 2। अब ये जो डेफिनेशन है इसमें भी जब चेंजेस हुए, दीज चेंजेस आर आल्सो मेंशन्ड हियर। पहला है सेंट्रल बोर्ड ऑफ एक्साइज एंड कस्टम्स, जो ओरिजिनली हुआ करता था, इट हैज बीन अमेंडेड by CGST Amendment Act 2018 which have been made effective from 1st February 2019। जो पहला जीएसटी लॉ में अमेंडमेंट आया था 2017-18 के बाद के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के बाद, दैट वाज फ्रॉम एप्लीकेबल फ्रॉम 1st February 2019। वहां पे इन्होंने सेंट्रल बोर्ड ऑफ एक्साइज एंड कस्टम्स को सब्स्टिट्यूट करके दे हैव एडेड द वर्ड सेंट्रल बोर्ड ऑफ इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस एंड कस्टम्स, बिकॉज सेंट्रल एक्साइज और अब रह नहीं गया था, इट हैज बिकम इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस। दूसरा, they have inserted नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग्स। ये फाइनेंस एक्ट 2019 से इन्होंने इंसर्ट किया, बट द डेट इज येट टू बी नोटिफाइड बिकॉज ये अथॉरिटी इज येट टू बी कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड। और पर्पस ये अथॉरिटी का, एज यू ऑल माइट बी नोइंग, बट स्टिल लेट मी, जब हम ये चीज़ें कर रहे हैं, एंड आई हैव डिसाइडेड दैट ये सीरीज हम चलाएंगे और स्लोली चलाएंगे, इनको कोई जल्दी नहीं है। सो आपको ध्यान होगा कि अगर एक ही कंपनी है, लेट्स से ए लिमिटेड, वो गुजरात में भी रजिस्टर्ड है, महाराष्ट्र में भी रजिस्टर्ड है, तमिलनाडु में भी रजिस्टर्ड है और कलकत्ता में भी रजिस्टर्ड है। ये चारों जगह पे एक सिमिलर बिजनेस ये करते हैं, एंड दे हैव अ क्वेरी with, let's say, with regards to applicability of an exemption notification or the applicability of a particular rate. So they have approached all these 4 registered person of A Limited, separately registered in various states, have applied for advance ruling on the same question. अब हुआ ये कि चारों अथॉरिटीज ने डाइवर्जेंट व्यूज दिए, तो जीएसटी काउंसिल ने डिसाइड किया कि लेट अस ट्राई टू रिजॉल्व दिस इन 2019 फाइनेंस एक्ट 2। फाइनेंस एक्ट 2 मीन्स पहले इंटरिम बजट आता है बिकॉज ये इलेक्शन ईयर होगा, एंड देन इट कम्स टू द फाइनल बजट। सो वहां ये डिसाइड किया, जहां पे भी डाइवर्जेंट व्यूज आ रहे हैं एक ही कंपनी के सिमिलर ट्रांजेक्शन्स के लिए विद मल्टीपल एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटीज, बिकॉज हर स्टेट में अलग है, so we'll formulate a national appellate authority for advance ruling so that they can directly apply to the national appellate authority, who will be deciding on these divergent views that what is going to be the correct view. So that was the purpose of establishment of or insertion of this national appellate authority for advance ruling. Then third is substituted for the word the appellate authority and appellate tribunal. So they have said pehle kya tha, appellate authority and appellate tribunal. Now what they have done, appellate authority comma appellate tribunal and the authority referred to in subsection 2 of section 171, जो national anti profiteering authority था, originally it was not there, so that was counted to be an adjudicating authority because वो भी एक order pass करता है. So then it has been amended from 1st February 2019 and it has been said that these authorities will also be out of the definition of adjudicating authority. So friends, this was subsection 4. Now moving to subsection 5. Subsection 5 again थोड़ा controversial है, इसके ऊपर एक circular भी लाए थे and then finally they have rescinded that circular because बहुत सारे confusion create हो गए थे, लेकिन definition बहुत important है। और मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि definition इतना broad है कि anyone who is helping to another person by any means will be covered into this definition, and the definition is subsection 5 defines agent. Normal sense में we understand agent as a person जहाँ पे principal और agent का relationship establish हो, जहाँ पे मैं किसी के लिए काम कर रहा हूँ, उसको represent कर रहा हूँ, और वो represent करने के लिए मे बी फॉर मार्केटिंग, मे बी फॉर एनी अदर पर्पस, but I'm representing a person who is my principal, and against that representation, I'm getting a commission. So finally, the question arises ki whether that commission is liable, whether it can be equated with salary, or it has to be treated as supply of service, and therefore GST will be applicable. So इसलिए एजेंट को separately define किया है. बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में हम अभी डिस्कस नहीं करेंगे, बिकॉज जब relevant sections आएंगे, relevant provisions आएंगे, we'll be discussing in detail. Plus, we'll discuss the circulars also. So agent means a person, including a factor, broker, commission agent, आड़तिया, bill creditor agent, and auctioneer, or any other mercantile agent by whatever name called. आप कुछ भी नाम रख लीजिए, वो एजेंट की डेफिनेशन में आएगा. कब? Who carries on the business of supply or receipt of goods or services or both on behalf of another. This is very important. Who carries on the business of supply of or receipt of goods or services or both on behalf of another. It doesn't mean कि किसी ने रेफरेंस दे दिया तो वो कमीशन एजेंट हो गया या एजेंट की डेफिनेशन में आ गया. He has to indulge himself. I'm repeating this definition. It says who carries on the business of supply or receipt of goods. Either he will have to supply goods or he has to receive goods or services or both on behalf of another, meaning thereby मैं, let's say Avinash gives a reference of Mr. X to one of my friends Y, और Y ने finally उससे वो खरीद लिया या वो services ले ली. That doesn't mean that I'm an agent. As per this definition, that will become an intermediary, which is defined in the law. That will become an intermediary. Intermediary is a person who does not indulge himself into the direct supply of goods or services. He is only acting as a felicitator. वो intermediary होगा. But मेरे example जो मैंने example दिया कि Avinash has given reference to Y and Y has purchased from X. And I am saying that I am an agent of X. No, I am an intermediary of X, and therefore GST लगेगा वो अलग चीज है, but agent में नहीं. Agent होने के लिए I'll have to carry on the supply of goods or receipt of goods or services, meaning thereby मुझे अपना registration लेना पड़ेगा, उसमें वो goods को खरीदना पड़ेगा और फिर supply करना पड़ेगा. That means, let's say Samsung Limited has appointed me as their agent. I will take registration, I'll purchase from Samsung, and then on behalf of Samsung Limited, I'll be supplying the goods to the final recipient. Then I step into the shoes of agent, provided I'm acting on behalf of that person. अगर मैं खुद के लिए करता हूँ, then I will become trader. और ये सब confusion क्यों है? Because in GST there is no trader, there is no manufacturer, nothing of that sort. Supply को concentrate कर दिया है या taxable event को concentrate कर दिया है only on one term, which is supply. So therefore, any form of supply is taxable under GST. But agent के अंदर fall करना अगर है, so we'll have to fulfill two conditions. First, I'll have to carry on the business of supply or receipt of goods or services. Two, on behalf of that another person. If that is not there, meaning thereby आप stand alone अगर करते हैं, Samsung Limited से आप purchase करते हैं और sell कर देते हैं, it becomes trader. But if I am purchasing from Samsung under a contract or an agreement, according to that contract or agreement, I am getting some commission out of it, then it means that I'll be falling within the definition of agent. And this was something which was clarified by that circular also, which has finally been withdrawn, if I'm not wrong. Then we'll slowly and gradually look into that also over the period of time. Moving to next definition, which is again the heart and soul of GST, because GST हम कोई भी लॉ कहीं पे भी जाएंगे, चाहे वो इनकम टैक्स है, तो वहां पे भी बात होती है एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट कितना है साहब, सर्विस टैक्स एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट कितना है. जीएसटी में, let me be very honest, there is no exemption limit. There is no exemption limit. There is a threshold. If you are below that threshold, you are not supposed to get registered. But if you cross that threshold, you are mandatorily required to get the registration. But then there is an option of voluntary registration also under GST. And once I opt for the voluntary registration, then there is no exemption limit. आपका 1 लाख रुपए का टर्नओवर है, 20 लाख का लिमिट है रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने के लिए, थ्रेशोल्ड। आप 1 लाख के टर्नओवर के बाद अगर जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लेते हैं तो वो आपकी इच्छा है। उसके बाद कोई भी टर्नओवर आप करेंगे नेक्स्ट ईयर में, चाहे आपका 10,000 का टर्नओवर होगा, यू आर सपोज टू पे टैक्स ऑन दैट इफ यू आर रजिस्टर्ड। सो देयर इज नो एग्जेम्पशन ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर टर्नओवर. There is a threshold for taking registration under GST. If you cross that threshold, you are mandatorily required to take registration. If you do not cross that threshold, you may not be required to take registration. Then you can opt for optional registration if you want. So next definition, subsection 6 is extremely important because वो threshold 20 लाख का या 40 लाख का कैसे compute करना जो section 22 में दिया है वो इससे होगा, because the term used is aggregate turnover. If your aggregate turnover crosses 20 lakhs, then you are supposed to take registration. Exception are some states जहाँ पे वो 20 लाख का 10 लाख हो जाता है. Then there is another provision which says if you are only in supply of goods, then the limit exceeds to 40 lakhs or up to 40 lakhs it can be exceeded. I'll not go into those provisions क्योंकि जब हम पढ़ेंगे तब वो डिस्कस करेंगे. But वो aggregate turnover कैसे कैलकुलेट करना वो यहाँ डिफाइंड है. It says means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies, excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by a person on reverse charge basis. So all taxable supplies that you are making, that will form part of the aggregate turnover. Very logical. But let's say if you are required to make a tax on the purchases under the reverse charge basis, then that has to be excluded from the turnover from the aggregate turnover. वो aggregate turnover की definition में से exclude कर दिया गया, that is not included. Further it says exempt supplies. So अगर कोई आपकी supply है जो taxable otherwise है, but maybe by way of a notification, जैसे 12/2017 है, 2/2017 है, कि वो by way of notification उसको exempt किया है. But if you are indulged into supply of those goods or services which are exempt, that also has to be included in the definition of aggregate turnover. Then comes export of goods or services or both. So if you are making any exports, that also forms part of your aggregate turnover. And interstate supply of persons having the same permanent account number to be computed on all India basis, but excludes central tax, state tax, union territory tax, integrated tax and cess. So अगर आप आपका सेम पैन नंबर है, मल्टीपल स्टेट्स में आप रजिस्टर्ड हैं, तो वो टर्नओवर उसको जो आप सप्लाई करते हैं, that also will be included in the aggregate turnover. टोटल टर्नओवर में वो भी इंक्लूड होगा, एक्सेप्ट आपका जो टैक्स का कंपोनेंट होगा, that has to be excluded. So therefore the sum and substance is, for calculating the aggregate turnover under GST, all taxable supplies excluding the inward supplies on which RCM is to be paid, exempt supplies, exports, interstate supply of separately registered persons with same PAN number has to be computed on all India basis, excluding the tax component. So that becomes the aggregate turnover. बहुत कॉमन एग्जाम्पल आता है या क्वेश्चन आता है कि सर मेरा इंटरेस्ट इनकम है 18 lakhs और मेरा प्रोफेशनल रिसीट्स या मे बी रेंट इनकम है 3 लाख. Whether I will be required to take registration? As per my limited understanding, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, because aggregate turnover की definition में exempt आता है. Interest is exempt by way of a notification which is 12/2017 plus 3 लाख रुपए, 18 लाख रुपए इंटरेस्ट प्लस 3 लाख रुपए आप ऐड करेंगे आपका रेंट इनकम या प्रोफेशनल रिसीट्स whatever, that will become 21 lakhs, which exceeds 20 lakhs. And the moment it will exceed 20 lakhs, the aggregate turnover section 22 will get triggered and therefore it will be mandatory requirement to get registration और section 25 के हिसाब से अब आपको registration लेना पड़ेगा. So whenever we are advising that registration to be taken or not, the aggregate turnover definition is playing the most important role there. There is one exception which is section 24 जहाँ पे कुछ चीजों में आपका टर्नओवर भले ही 20 लाख क्रॉस ना करे, 40 लाख क्रॉस ना करे, फिर भी आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ता है. So we'll discuss that when we'll be dealing with that. Next definition is agriculturist. Agriculturist who, अगर आज हम देखें इनकम टैक्स में तो एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट की डेफिनेशन रिस्ट्रिक्टेड नहीं है. यहाँ पे एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट की डेफिनेशन restricted है as per me. How it is restricted? Let us see that. It says means an individual or a Hindu undivided family who undertakes cultivation of land. Important is who undertakes cultivation of land. Please bear in mind the provision which and what does it mean, because वो बहुत relevant होगा. So who undertakes cultivation of land, जो खुद undertake करे cultivation of land. कैसे? By own labor, या तो आप खुद की लेबर रखते हैं और cultivation of land करते हैं, then you will fall within the purview of agriculturist, or by the labor of family, आप खुद की फैमिली से लेबर कराते हैं, और by servants on wages payable in cash or kind, और by hired labor. बस यहाँ रुकते हैं. जनरली ऐसा ही होता है कि सर मेरी जमीनें पड़ी हैं गांव में, विलेज में, और मैं वहां पे अपने आप को दिखाता हूँ कि मैं एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट हूँ. मैंने वह कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे दे रखा है, वहां से जो मेरी रिसीट आती है मैं कह देता हूँ एग्रीकल्चरल इनकम है. सर जीएसटी ने उसको डिनाई कर दिया. जीएसटी हैज सेड कि आप सर्वेंट से अगर वेजेस में कराते हो जो कैश और काइंड में है, बट दैट हैज टू बी, नाउ लेट अस रीड फर्दर, अंडर पर्सनल सुपरविजन or the personal supervision of any member of the family, unless I am able to establish that this cultivation of land which is being done by servants on wage under my own supervision or the supervision of my family, I'll not be falling within the definition of agriculturist. Please bear in mind. तो एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट की डेफिनेशन में 3 तरीके के लोग फॉलो करते हैं. या तो आप खुद लेबर करते हो, या आपकी फैमिली से लेबर कराते हो, या फिर आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाले बंदे से लेबर कराते हो, सर्वेंट से कराते हो, लेकिन वो आपकी सुपरविजन में या आपकी फैमिली की सुपरविजन में होना चाहिए. तभी then only it will be considered to be falling within the purview of the term agriculturist. Otherwise you will be out of the term agriculturist and it will be a normal supply of goods or services, and accordingly the tax will be levied on that. So this is subsection 7. Moving to subsection 8, which is appellate authority, means an authority appointed or authorized to hear appeals as referred to in section 107. So it will be certainly, अगर GST एक्ट की बात करते हैं तो जो अपीलेट अथॉरिटी है वो नोटिफिकेशन से कॉन्स्टिट्यूट होती है, जो बोर्ड करता है, बोर्ड अपॉइंट करता है, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली कमिश्नर अपील का काम करते हैं. सो ऑल दोज अथॉरिटीज हु आर अपॉइंटेड as appellate authority under section 107 falls into that definition of appellate authority. Appellate tribunal means the goods and services tax appellate tribunal constituted under section 109. Unfortunately, because of certain shortcomings in the draft of law, the GST appellate tribunal has not been constituted till date, and therefore there is always an issue pertaining to this. और अभी लॉ अमेंड हुआ है 2023 में, सेक्शंस में चेंजेस हुए हैं. द गवर्नमेंट इज आल्सो सेइंग दैट वी विल बी कमिंग आउट विद द ट्रिब्यूनल उन्होंने तो जूल 23 ही बोला था, बट I have my own reservations and I don't believe that tribunal is going or can be constituted too early. It will take some time, rather as per me, lot of time. और हो सकता है कि जिस इश्यू को पहले मद्रास हाई कोर्ट ने एडजुडिकेट किया था, जिसकी वजह से लॉ भी अमेंड किया, वो फाइनली लॉ में नहीं सॉल्व हो पाया, तो मे बी वापस से जो नए लॉ हैं वो एक बार इफेक्टिव हो जाएं या एक बार लॉ का पार्ट बन जाए, देन मे बी दैट विल बी चैलेंज्ड अगेन, दैट कैन अगेन टेक सम टाइम, बट इवन अदरवाइज आई फील दैट इतना जल्दी नहीं हो पाएगा. इट विल टेक इट्स ओन टाइम बिकॉज once it is ratified by all the states, then it will be constituted, then the members will be appointed. It will take its own time. So subsection 9 defines the appellate tribunal. Subsection 10, it is appointed day, means the date on which the provisions of the act shall come into force. Now yesterday we have discussed section 1, if you all remember. उसका subsection 3 था जो बोलता था कि appointed day, the date on which the law will commence. So टेक्निकली इम्प्लीमेंटेड है 1 जुलाई 2017 से ये लॉ, majority of the provisions, but couple of the provisions were implemented from 22nd of June 2017 just to make this law workable, registration sections and all those sections, migration and all. So इसलिए अपॉइंटेड डे को स्पेसिफिकली डिफाइन किया है कि डोंट कंसीडर 1 जुलाई 2017 as the date of appointment of the entire law. Please bear in mind friends, ये बहुत important है. So it clearly says on which the provisions of this act shall come into force. So if any provision is coming into force from 22nd of June, those provisions will be effective from 22nd of June. If some of the provisions are coming with effect from 1st October 2017 or 18, then it will be appointed day for that particular section. If some are coming from 1st July 2017, then that day will be the appointed day for those sections. That is appointed day, subsection 10 of section 2. Now comes the definition, further definition of assessment. Section 2, subsection 11 means determination of tax liability under this act and includes self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, summary assessment, and best judgment assessment. So this is how in GST law, in section 2, subsection 11, the term assessment has been defined. Basically, it is nothing but the determination of tax liability, either by way of assessment, self-assessment, reassessment, or whatsoever. But that is nothing but the determination of tax liability under this act. Then comes associated enterprise. Now, again, it borrows the definition from Income Tax Act 1961, Section 92, capital A. So it says associated enterprise shall have the same meaning as assigned to it in Section 92, capital A of the Income Tax Act. Now, I'll be not going into that 92A cap. Actionable claim मुझे थोड़ा ज़्यादा relevant लगा, so I've touched upon that. But associated enterprise, because that will be having a narrow compass, so I'll not go into that definition 92A. But I'll request कि all of you should refer section 92A of the capital of the Income Tax Act. That will help us. Next is section 2, subsection 13, which is audit. जब 9C का compliance था, जब provisions of law बोलते थे section 35 में that the audit is compulsory, 35(5) if I'm not wrong. At that point in time, it was very, very important and very crucial, the way and the manner in which it is defined, because it is extremely broad. But now, since the audit is not to be done by professionals, by chartered accountants or cost accountants, the relevance has reduced, but still there are two kind of audits. One is audit by the departmental authorities as per section 65, and two, there is a special audit provision. So this term audit, wherever it is mentioned in the law, this definition needs to be borrowed. This definition needs to be relied upon. And this is one of the broadest definition of term audit, which I have seen in my 24 years of practice. It says means the examination of records, returns, and other documents maintained or furnished. Either you have maintained or not. If you have furnished, then it is included by the registered person under this act or the rules made thereunder, or under any law for the time being in force to verify the correctness of turnover declared. Just see the impact of this definition. It says documents maintained or furnished under any other law for the time being in force to verify. The purpose of this audit is to verify the correctness of the turnover declared, taxes paid, refund claim, and input tax credit availed, and to assess his compliance with the provisions of this act or rules made thereunder. So it is not only restricted to the verification of records, returns, documents which are maintained or furnished. It is going beyond that, and it can also assess the compliances which are required to be done by the taxable person as per the provisions of the act or rules made thereunder. If any of the non-compliance is found, then the audit can have an adverse impact. That is how the audit term has been defined. Since we professionals, now this risk is not there because that section has been omitted, subsection rather has been omitted. I'll not go into much detail when we'll be discussing section 35 prior to amendment and post amendment. At that point in time, we'll discuss this. Next is authorized bank. So as we have seen, इन्होंने एक या दो बैंक से स्टार्ट किया था, but slowly and gradually in last 6 years, almost 6 years, they have most of the banks are now authorized. So shall mean a bank or branch of a bank authorized by government to collect the tax or any other amount which is payable under this act. So any bank which is empowered, which is allowed, which is authorized to collect the tax, the government, or any other amount which is payable under this act to the government is defined within the four corners of authorized bank. And slowly and gradually, we have all have observed that most of the banks are now covered within the purview of authorized bank, authorized bank. Sorry. Subsection 15, authorized representative means the representative as referred to in section 116. So 116 जब हम करेंगे, at that point in time we'll see this definition that how authorized representative has been defined in this law under 116. Board. Again, first amendment इसमें हुआ था, Central Board of Excise and Customs were deleted, and from 1st February 2019, these words were inserted. Means the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs constituted under the Central Board of Revenue Act 1963. So CBEC को हटा के CBIC कर दिया. Now this is a big definition, section 2 clause 17. Friends, it is, let's have a break for 5 minutes and then we'll continue with this. It's 9:51. We'll restart at 9:56. Just a break for 5 minutes. Let's start, friends. We have done 16 subsections. Now we'll be moving to subsection 17, which is a very, very important and broad definition, because whenever it has to be decided whether uh, the tax will be levied or not, we need to go and verify whether that supply, whether it is a supply or not first. If it is a supply, then whether that supply is in course or furtherance of business or not. And therefore, the business term becomes very, very important. Let's go one by one. First and foremost, it is an inclusive definition, and therefore, a lot of things which may not be there, but which we can make fall within the purview of these sub clauses, it can be covered within the purview of term business, and therefore the impact of tax may arise depending on the situation and the facts. It says business includes A, any trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, adventure, wager, or any other similar activity, whether or not it is for pecuniary benefit. So even if you indulge into some kind of trade, commerce, manufacture, profession without having any pecuniary benefit, then also it will be covered within the purview of business. B, any activity or transaction in connection with or incidental or ancillary to subclause A. So any activity which can be considered as ancillary to, let's say, trade, commerce, manufacture, then that activity will also fall within the purview of business. C, any activity or transaction in the nature of subclause A, whether or not there is volume, frequency, continuity or regularity of such transaction. तो जनरली हम क्या बोलते हैं, बिजनेस है, सो रेगुलर कोर्स ऑफ एक्टिविटी होना चाहिए. अगर हम केवल एक ही बार वो करते हैं, तो दैट शुड नॉट बी कवर्ड विद इन द पर्व्यू ऑफ बिजनेस, एंड इट शुड नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज सप्लाई, बिकॉज दैट इज नॉट द बिजनेस ऑफ दैट पर्सन. तो यहाँ पे स्पेसिफिकली कर दिया है, कोई भी एक्टिविटी और ट्रांजेक्शन जो सब क्लॉज ए में है, चाहे उसका वॉल्यूम हो या नहीं हो, फ्रीक्वेंसी हो या नहीं हो, कंटिन्यूटी रेगुलरिटी हो या नहीं हो, that will be covered within the purview of business. So even a one-time activity, a one-time transaction without any expectation of any pecuniary benefit, even that can be considered and that can fall within the term business. D, supply or acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services, in connection with commencement or closure of business. So any supplies or the acquisition, including capital goods or services, which is in connection with commencement or closure of business within the purview of business. Provision by a club, association, society, or any such body for a subscription or any other consideration of the facilities or benefits to its members. So, बहुत बड़ा जो वो कैलकाटा क्लब और वो जो एक इशू हुआ था, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कह दिया था कि जहाँ पे भी members or society की बात है, it will be considered that it's a mutual activity and therefore nobody can provide any supply or any service to any to own self, and therefore वहाँ पे हम सर्विस टैक्स नहीं लगा सकते. बट यहाँ स्पेसिफिकली इंक्लूड कर दिया, सॉरी, यहाँ बोला प्रोविजन बाय अ क्लब, एसोसिएशन, सोसाइटी और एनी अदर बॉडी, either for a subscription or for any other consideration of the facilities और बेनिफिट्स टू इट्स मेंबर्स. तो अगर ये मेंबर्स के लिए कुछ भी करते हैं, प्रोविजन करते हैं अपनी फैसिलिटीज का, तो वो बिजनेस में कवर होगा. नेक्स्ट, क्लॉज एफ, एडमिशन फॉर अ कंसिडरेशन ऑफ पर्सन्स टू एनी प्रेमाइसेस. सो इफ you are charging something and allowing the admission to any person at your premise, then it will become business. And we have already read कि इसकी फ्रीक्वेंसी हो या नहीं हो, वॉल्यूम हो या नहीं हो, इट डजंट मेक एनी डिफरेंस. Clause G, services supplied by a person as the holder of an office which has been accepted by him in the course or furtherance of his trade, profession, or vocation. So, if you are supplying any services, being the holder of an office which you have accepted in the course or furtherance of the business, profession, or vocation, then in that case, that will be a business. Clause H, activities of a race club, including by way of totalizer or a license to book mark maker or activities of a licensed book maker in such club. So रेस क्लब की कोई भी एक्टिविटीज है, इधर टोटलाइजर है या बुक मेकर को लाइसेंस है या एक्टिविटीज है लाइसेंस बुक मेकर की, वो सभी बिजनेस में कवर्ड हैं. देन कम्स क्लॉज आई, any activity or transaction undertaken by central government, state government, or local authority in which they are engaged as public authorities. So if any government, whether it is central government or local authority or state government, if they are providing any supplies as a public authority, then that is also falling within the purview of business, and hence all those transactions will become taxable. There was one amendment from 1st February 2019 जो रेस क्लब का हमने किया, वो पहले था सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड बाय अ रेस क्लब बाय वे ऑफ टोटलाइजेटर एंड अ लाइसेंस टू बुक मेकर इन सच क्लब. अभी उन्होंने एक ऐड कर दिया कि एक्टिविटीज of a licensed bookmaker that also has been included in the purview of business, and therefore it is taxable. So my limited understanding says कि ये जो definition है सर section 2 subsection 17 और clause 17 की जो business define करती है, बहुत relevant है, बहुत important है, because that is going to create or that is going to help us in deciding whether the tax will be leviable on a particular transaction which is treated as supply or which is to be treated as supply or not. Moving to subsection 18, which defines business vertical. Now, business vertical has been omitted. This definition has been omitted from 1st February 2019. अगर हम ओरिजिनली देखें तो कंसेप्ट ये था कि अगर एक ही स्टेट में आपको मल्टीपल रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने हैं तो आपको बिजनेस वर्टिकल होना पड़ेगा. अगर आप बिजनेस वर्टिकल नहीं है तो आप मल्टीपल रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं ले सकते. But now, after the deletion of this or omission of this particular subsection, it is now very clear कि even in a particular state you can have multiple registrations even if there is no separate business vertical. Meaning thereby एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वर्टिकल था, एक ट्रेडिंग वर्टिकल था. पहले ये दो अलग अलग होने जरूरी थे, इंडिपेंडेंट होने जरूरी थे जीएसटी में रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने के लिए. अब ऐसी कोई जरूरत नहीं है. अब दो जगह आपकी सेम स्टेट में फैक्ट्रीज हैं तो भी आप दो रजिस्ट्रेशन ले सकते हैं, दो ट्रेडिंग की शॉप्स हैं तो भी आप दो रजिस्ट्रेशन ले सकते हैं, बिकॉज नाउ बिजनेस वर्टिकल टर्म हैज बीन डिलीटेड और दिस डेफिनेशन हैज बीन ओमिटेड फ्रॉम द लॉ. मूविंग टू नेक्स्ट subsection 19. Subsection 19 of the CGST Act, it defines capital goods. ध्यान से देखिएगा, ये इंपॉर्टेंट डेफिनेशन है, बिकॉज बहुत जगह पे जहां हम 17(5)H की बात करते हैं, 17(5)C और D की बात करते हैं, वहां पे ये चीजें रेलेवेंट हो जाती हैं. दिस डेफिनेशन बिकम्स रेलेवेंट. इट इज मीन्स गुड्स. तो फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट ये गुड्स होना चाहिए. मीन्स गुड्स द वैल्यू ऑफ विच इज कैपिटलाइज्ड. सो समथिंग विच इज नॉट गुड्स cannot be included in capital goods. वो क्यों मैं बोल रहा हूँ वो हम बाद में देखते हैं. The value of which is capitalized in the books of accounts of the person claiming the input tax credit and which are used or intended to be used in course or furtherance of business. So capital goods is the value of which is capitalized in the books of accounts. So अगर आपने कोई capital goods आपके हिसाब से खरीदा लेकिन आपने उसको कैपिटलाइज नहीं किया बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में, then in that case it will not be capital goods as per the CGST law. अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट वो सब आप जाने दें, हम केवल जीएसटी लॉ पे हैं, तो जीएसटी लॉ के अंदर वो कैपिटल गुड्स नहीं होगा इफ यू आर नॉट कैपिटलाइजिंग दैट इन योर बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स. So you will have to keep this in mind, that something which is capitalized in the books of accounts by the person who is claiming input tax credit on that and which is used or intended to be used in course or furtherance of business will become capital goods. Otherwise, it will be not covered within the definition of capital goods as per subsection 19 of section 2. Next, casual taxable person. It is again very important because casual taxable person के लिए section 27 जब हम जाएंगे registration में, that will become very very important to understand. So this definition says means a person who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods or services or both in the course or furtherance of business, whether as principal agent or in any other capacity in a state or union territory where he has no fixed place of business. We'll see this definition also, fixed place of business or place of business. But for the time being, only focus on this definition. It says a person who occasionally undertakes transactions. That means a person may not be a resident of that particular state or union territory, but he is undertaking some temporary business there. And for undertaking that temporary business of supply of goods or services or both, in the course of furtherance of business, he has to take registration as per the GST law because his PAN turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, which is the aggregate turnover. So he can take registration as a casual taxable person in case he is occasionally undertaking such activity. If he is permanently taking or regularly taking such activity, he can be a regular registered person, but otherwise he has an option that he can take casual taxable person. Whatever restrictions are there, we'll discuss while discussing the provision. Section 20, subsection 21, central tax means the central goods and services tax levied under section 9 of the CGST law. Subsection 22 says shall have the same meaning assigned to it in the goods and services tax compensation to states act 2017. While discussing the compensation to state act, we'll be discussing this. Chartered accountant, subsection 23. Chartered accountant means a person as defined in clause B of subsection 1 of section 2 of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. So he is a chartered accountant commissioner. Now this is important. Subsection 24 and 25 इसका डिफरेंस आपको समझ में आना बहुत जरूरी है जो स्टेट एक्ट में नहीं है. तो जो कुछ डिफरेंसेस हैं सीजीएसटी और स्टेट एक्ट में, उनमें से अभी एक डिफरेंस आ गया. सबसेक्शन 24 says commissioner means a commissioner of central tax and includes the principal commissioner of central tax appointed under section 3 and the commissioner of integrated tax appointed under the integrated goods and services tax act. So commissioner of central tax plus principal commissioner of central tax जो section 3 में appoint होते हैं, section 3 will be discussing, and the commissioner of IGST integrated tax appointed under the integrated tax act. Then comes subsection 25, which is commissioner in the board. Means the commissioner referred to in section 168. Very important. तो ये आप ध्यान रखें कि there are two commissioners. One is the commissioner defined in the law, which is appointed under section 3 of the CGST Act. And the other is commissioner in the board, which we are referring in section 168 of the Act. Who is the person who is empowered to a lot of things like issuance of notifications and all. So he is the person who is sitting in board. So there are two commissioners under GST now. Subsection 26, common portal. Means the common goods and services tax electronic portal referred to in section 146, the portal on which you are filing returns, you are taking registrations, accepting notices, replying back to the notices, that is common portal. 27, subsection 27, common working days. In respect of a state or union territory, shall mean such days in succession which are not declared as gazetted holidays by the central government or the concerned state or union territory government. So, common working days in respect of a state or union territory means what? Such days in succession which are not declared as gazetted holidays by the central government or the concerned state or union territory government. All those days are common working days. Specifically अगर सेंट्रल में कोई हॉलिडे है और स्टेट में नहीं है, या स्टेट में है सेंट्रल में नहीं है, so that will fall out of this common working days. Rest all the days जहाँ पे दोनों लोग simultaneously कर रहे हैं, that will become the common working days. Subsection 28, company secretary means a company secretary as defined in clause C of subsection 1 of section 2 of Company Secretaries Act 1980. Subsection 29, competent authority means such authority as may be notified by the government. So he will be the competent authority wherever the term competent authority is mentioned. So the government will come out with a notification and say that this is the competent authority for this purpose. Say, for example, the National Anti-Profiteering Authority. He is the competent authority. Subsection 30, composite supply. This again is very important. Section 8 of the law, when we will refer this, it will become very important, but we need to understand the definition as of now. Means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient consisting of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or both. This is important. Two or more taxable supply of goods or services or both, or any combination thereof, meaning thereby goods or services हो सकते हैं, दो goods हो सकते हैं, दो services, but more than one, two or more. But both should be taxable, which are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. It has to be supplied in ordinary course of business with one another, one of which is a principal supply. So composite supply generally, let's say जब हम गाड़ी खरीदने जाते हैं तो उसके साथ सर्विस हमें फ्री मिलती है, तो it becomes a composite supply because two or more taxable supplies. Goods गाड़ी ली, साथ में services मिली, both are taxable. So two taxable supplies of goods and service supplied in conjunction with each other, one of which is a principal supply, and ordinary course of business में ये bundled है. So that will become a composite supply. But something which is not bundled in the ordinary course of business, that means artificially, none of them has a principal supply nature, then it will not be covered within the definition of composite supply. वो कहाँ cover होगा, we will be covering later. Illustration भी दिया हुआ है एक्ट में, where goods are packed and transported with insurance. The supply of goods, packing material, transport, and insurance is a composite supply, and supply of goods is a principal supply because that becomes the principal or the dominant supply. I believe, friends, it is already 10:15, and we have covered 30 subsections today. Rest of the subsections, rest of this particular section, will be covering up tomorrow. And once again, I'm not in hurry, and I request all of you not to be in hurry. Slowly we'll read the entire law. और जैसा मैंने बोला था, बीच बीच में जो amendments आएंगे, जो changes आएंगे, don't worry, we'll be covering up that also. So for today, I'll seek permission to stop here. And from subsection 31 onwards, that is consideration, I'll be requesting and I'll be considering it to be taken up from tomorrow. So once again, I'm thankful to each one of you for being with me in this journey of learning GST law. And I'm the person who is going to be most benefited out of this entire journey. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. We'll meet